Family slides taken in Warsaw and in the village of Dobrynin, county of Poland, Poland, 1965. And I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. My apologies if I'm not. 1965, Poland was part of the communist Soviet bloc. My grandmother wanted to go home before she passed away. We took her home for a visit to both sides of the family. Grandfather had passed away midsummer in 1964. Grandmother joined him a few months after returning to the States from her visit to her birthplace, late 1965. I recall arriving in Warsaw on a turboprop airplane originating from Amsterdam. While in Warsaw, we met up with some people living in a rather nice apartment. A very fine elderly couple. The old gentleman wore his military uniform. And frankly, I have no idea who these people were, except of course I was traveling with my parents, and wherever they went, I went. In addition, as seen in this picture, along with my grandmother and mother, a very handsome man and an attractive lady. I spoke no Polish, but I was fluent in Portuguese. The pretty lady spoke Italian. It may be hard to believe, but we were able to converse in the most basic Latin sense. We flew another turboprop to Krakow, and then hired a car and a driver to take us to the village. A crowd awaited us as the news of visitors from America spread. The crowd was lined up and down a dirt road. It was like we were celebrities, and I believe we were. I remember the first stop, this place, thatch roof, dirt floors, an outhouse. Half of the house was used to shelter livestock. This farm was on my grandmother's side of the family. Here's a picture of grandmother with her family. Now you'll note some pictures are going to be a bit fuzzy and they're in black and white. These pictures had to be recovered using my iPhone, and they were Polaroid pictures. And oddly enough, this is how well they looked after all these years. Here's a full picture of my grandmother and her family. Two of these people actually came to the States in 1966 as part of her will. And if you posted bond, you could bring someone to the U.S. out of a communist country. But somewhat like North Korea, you had better return them to their home country. And we did. It was a sad affair, but that's another story. Here's a picture of my mother and a family member. This gal is the one that we did bring to the U.S. just for a few short weeks. My grandmother stayed the night while we returned to our room in Krakow. Here's a picture of my grandmother with her family, and I believe this is a departing picture. I am not sure who the old gal or older gal is in the middle, whether it is a sister or not. It's hard to say at this point. Now, this is a picture of my grandfather's farm. I believe my grandfather's side of the family was doing much better. His backyard looks a little bit better. You can see the crops. This was taken, I'm going to say, August 65. So it looks like they're almost ready to harvest. I hold my great Uncle Thomas and pose with my grandfather's side of the family in this shot. Later in life, I learned that Thomas had remained in Poland while his brothers Casimir and Andrew immigrated to the U.S. sometime between 1900 and 1910. Andrew died before I was born. Oddly, my grandfather changed the spelling of our last name by one letter, while his brother kept the original spelling. It was rumored the name change was due to a misspelling at Ellis Island. We were served lunch. I felt uncomfortable eating while the family members stood by. I took a strong stand to share my food, and I did. Food was scarce, and I was privileged, and I had to share my food. Even though I might have been 13, I'd have it no other way. Here's a shot of me sitting on the edge of the well, and the last shot for the video. I hope you enjoyed my short story about visiting Poland. Please like and subscribe to see more vintage slides from the 50s and 60s. Also, feel free to comment. Thanks.